Hello traders, today I'm going to introduce you to the most powerful scanner on the market. This is something I've been working on for over 9 years, and it includes a lot of my own proprietary indicators that you won't find anywhere else. The intent of the first video is to simply go through some of the different fields, some of the different criteria that you can select from, and to give you an overview of what the scanner does. In subsequent videos, I'm going to actually go out and conduct the search and then compare it to the technical study so you can see that the search is actually doing what it's supposed to. In future videos, I'm going to be using a lot of these search criteria in tandem with each other, and that's where the real power comes into play. The first thing that you'll probably notice is that there are green and red boxes. Bullish for green, bearish for red. The other thing that you might notice is that you don't have to configure anything. I've already done the heavy lifting for you. I've gone through all the indicators and I've optimized them so that when you select bullish, the work is already done for you. If it's a M5 bullish, this is for a 5-minute time period, 15-minute time period. H1 is 1 hour. D1 is 1 day. So you can really decide what you're looking for, what's your trading time horizon. Are you a day trader? Well, then you'll probably want to focus on M5 and M15. Are you a shorter term swing trader? H1 might be your optimal time frame. Are you a longer term swing trader that likes to be in a position for maybe a week or 2 or 3? D1 is probably going to be the choice that you want to go with. So you customize the searches and the time horizon to suit your needs. Trendline 20 uses 20 periods. So if I mark bullish for M5, this is 20 5-minute periods, and it's going to have a trend line that slopes upwards. Pretty self-explanatory. If I go down to TL60, it works the same way, except the periods have been expanded. So instead of 20 periods, I'll be looking at 60 5-minute periods. So that's roughly about a 5-hour uptrend line using M5. Now if I go to the bullish trendline 20 breach, here this is an actual trend line breach. So this would be a downward sloping trend line for the last 20 periods on an M5 chart, and the breach means that the stock is currently trading above that downward sloping trend line. Hence, it is bullish. If I go down to trendline 60 breach and I mark that, now I can find a stock that's been in a 60 period down trend. So 65-minute periods, roughly 5 hours. It's been in that downtrend, but that downtrend line has been breached to the upside, so that makes it a bullish candidate. So this would be a reversal that you're looking for. So the stock has been down, 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 and now that trend line has been broken and the stock is ready to go the other way. Trade signal. I have proprietary trade signals that I've devised, and you can use them across all time frames. So if I wanted to, my trade signals, by the way, are very, very good. So if I marked M5, M15, and M30, this stock would have to have a bullish trade signal across all of these time frames in order to return a search. So let's just hit scan and you can see a lot of stocks will come up. I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit, and I'll tell you that I'm an option trader. I do have an option liquidity rating. So I always like to have this marked because I'm always looking for liquid options. And the option liquidity ranges from -10 to +10. I'm going to look for options that have a option liquidity rating of at least 2. That's going to be a fairly liquid option. Anything 5 or above is very, very liquid. And I'm also going to go down and mark weekly options. That also is of interest to me because I like trading short-term options. And now I'm going to click weekly and option liquidity 2. You can see I didn't get any results back, but it did actually go out and it looked for these criteria to be met. If I unmarked one of those boxes, now all of a sudden I'll start to see some results come in because it's less restrictive. So I do like to have option liquidity and weekly options marked at all times. This trade signal is very, very powerful, and you'll see me use it in conjunction with some of the other indicators. Pressure. Pressure is, as you might think, if I mark bullish, we're looking for bullish internals, a lot of buying pressure coming into the stock. Now that does not always translate into price movement. These are internal measurements that are being taken on the stock on an ongoing basis. Strength versus SPY, very, very powerful. Relative strength for most traders means RSI. RSI compares a stock's current strength to its previous strength. This is not what we're interested in. RSI is a great indicator. What I'm most interested in is when the market is down, I want to see a stock that is going higher. It is moving against the market. So with all the surrounding selling pressure from the market, this stock is bucking the trend. It's moving higher. That tells me it really wants to go. And folks, this really is my biggest trading edge that I use across all of my different systems. So if you get the SPY wrong and you're trading E-mini futures, guaranteed you are going to lose money. However, if you find stocks and you trade stocks that are strong relative to the market and you think the market's going higher and you buy these stocks, there's a very good chance that even if you're wrong and the market goes down, that these stocks are going to hold their own because there's an awful lot of buying coming into them and you'll be able to scratch the trade. Oftentimes, the stock will continue to grind higher even though the market is down and you can make money on the trade. But the nice thing is that you always have your sell order loaded and you're ready to exit at any minute because you got the market wrong. You're on the wrong side of the market. But when you find these moments where the market is starting to bottom out after a big move, today the S&P futures are down 44 points as I'm recording this, so very, very nasty day. But if I mark this, strength versus SPY, I'm going to see stocks on a 5-minute basis that are actually bucking the trend and that might be ready to reverse. Look, there's a whole lot of them. And if I combine this with some other indicators, maybe I'll just do strong versus SPY on a 15-minute and a 5-minute basis. Look, we're still getting a ton of results. These stocks are going to fly as soon as the market finds support. Again, this is our edge. And they also have very liquid options because I've marked that as well. So I'm just going to keep going down. Strength versus sector. So if you mark this, the stock is going to be strong within its own sector. So if I mark strength versus the SPY and strength versus its sector, I'm going to find some really good candidates. Look at that. I don't have a lot of stocks that I have to sift through. Compression out. We trade an awful lot of compressions. That price compression is like a spring that's coiled very, very tightly, just waiting to release. Sometimes I want to see a stock that has been in a compression and where that compression has been resolved to the upside, meaning the stock broke out to the upside. That would be a bullish compression out. Sometimes I want to see the stock when it's still in a compression. Now that would be neutral because we don't know if the stock is going to break out to the upside or the downside. For that reason, you'll see that there is no box to mark in the red. You're just simply looking for that compression right now. And if I run the scan, You can see lots of results come back. These results are real time, by the way. This is all calculated on my server. It takes seconds for these results to come back. Not even seconds, half a second maybe. Engulf. This would be a bullish engulfing pattern if I mark this on an M5 basis, and that means that you have a big green candle where the open and the close have engulfed the prior candle. Those of you who trade candlesticks, this is a really, really powerful search, especially for a bullish engulf if it's coming at the low end of the trading range. Or if you had a bearish engulfing pattern at the upper end of the trading range, it would certainly be signaling trouble and a likely reversal. Capitulation is another indicator that I use, and here I'm looking for a stock that has, in a bullish capitulation, sold off hard, made a new low, and now it's rallying above that low. So it's a very specific formation that I'm looking for. I'm not going to go into any great detail explaining it. I'll just say that when you look at these charts, you'll go, yeah, that's a big blow off right there. This stock is ready to reverse. So these capitulations, bullish and bearish, are again very, very useful for reversals. Heavy volume. We're looking for stocks that have greater than 120% of their average normal volume during the last 20 periods in this time frame. So I'm looking for very, very big volume spikes. Again, this is a neutral indicator. It's not bullish or bearish per se, so there's only one box that you can mark. Is it high volume or is it not? Percent range. So on a day like today where I've got a lot of stocks that are really, really getting hit hard, I might be looking for those reversals, and if I mark percent range bullish, it's going to tell me that that stock is in the 90 percentile of that time frame. Well, 5 minutes is not much of a time frame to measure, but an hour certainly could be. So show me a stock that's in the 90 percentile of its trading range. So it is right near the high of the day. And I'm not sure if I'm going to have a lot of candidates here. I might. We'll conduct a search and see if anything comes back. Actually, let me take the 5 minute off and we'll run that scan and see if anything's near the high of its 1 hour range. It's not. With the S&P futures down 48 right now, we just dropped another 4 points. We're not seeing a lot of stocks in their 90 percentile right now. And if I had marked bearish, then it would be looking for stocks in the lower 10 percentile of the range. Now, in that particular instance, I would expect to see lots of stocks coming up. I use this primarily when I'm looking for reversals on a day trading basis because the time frame is very short, even one day. As the day starts to elapse and you're getting near the close, you might be looking for stocks that are trading near their low to see if you get a little late rally in it. But 4-hour time frame or 2-hour time frame also very, very useful. But I'm looking for those extremes on the range and then combined with some of the other indicators that I've shown you. Very, very powerful. Now, if you're looking for longer term ranges, I do also have that available, and I'll show you that in a moment. Climax measures this pressure on a stock, and it's looking for overextension. So if I marked bullish Climax on a 5-minute basis, the system's going to go out and it's going to find these extremes. I use this also for reversals. I'm looking for stocks where you've got so much pressure built up on the buy side that the stocks are ready to reverse. And I use this oftentimes in conjunction with a compression or a compression breakdown. I also use it in conjunction with this pressure indicator and with my trade signals. Again, we'll have plenty of time to review that in the future, and I'll be showing you some of the most powerful combinations that I use in future videos. So for right now, I just want to get through all the different fields that you can select from. I've already gone through option liquidity. I rate the bid-ask spread, I rate the daily average volume, I rate whether or not it has weekly options. A lot of criteria go into this, and the ratings range from -10, which would be a very illiquid option, to a +10, which would be very liquid, like the SPY. And since I like using a value of 2 to 10, I know that the bid-ask spread is going to be pretty dang tight in here, and I'll be able to actively trade options. So it helps me sort out, filter out a lot of other possible candidates. And I also like marking the weekly options. I'm going to take this off for right now, and I'm going to take the option liquidity off so that you can focus on some of the other fields. Option implied volatility at the money. So for those of you who are premium buyers, you might want to have a range of 0.1 to maybe 0.30. That would be a decent range in terms of option implied volatility. Others of you might be premium sellers. And if you're selling, you're usually going to be looking for options that have a lot of option implied volatility. There you might be looking for something that's got between a 30 and a 60 IV. So that also could be very viable for spreaders. And you'll see a lot of results returned on that. So really depends on what you're looking for, but you can sort and filter by option implied volatility. Stock price. Some people really don't like trading stocks under $10. Other people focus on those stocks. So again, it really just depends on what you're looking for. And if I just had stock price marked here, there are people who like to trade stocks that range between $1 and say even $7. Well, you can find those. And if you're day trading these, another thing that you might want to mark is your average daily volume to make sure that you've got stocks that trade, say, at least 500,000 shares per day. So you can see this is in thousands. So if I put 500 in here, it will be a stock that trades at least 500,000 shares per day and is between $1 and $7. I might also like a stock that moves. So this is based on the ATR over a 20-day period divided by the stock price. And in most instances, for a normal stock is going to have about a 1 to 1.5% range, but a volatile stock is probably going to be somewhere in the 3% range and maybe up to 5%, but you can leave it at 99 if you'd like. And so these are going to be your stocks that you'd be looking at. You can see how many results were returned, and then you can start using some of this other criteria as well. So you can sort by stock price, average daily volume, stock volatility. Those are all very important criteria depending on what you're looking for. I'd mentioned to you that you can also sort by percent of 60-day range. So let's say that I'm looking for a stock that's been pounded and I'm looking to do some bottom fishing. I might go from 1% to 20% of its 60-day range. And right now with the market pulling back, we're going to get a whole lot of stocks, but all of these would qualify, and then you use other criteria to narrow this list. Earnings date, projected. We have to go by previous earnings releases, and we have to go by dates that have already been confirmed by the company. But let's say that I'm looking to sell a weekly credit spread, but I don't want to be impacted by earnings. So I don't want to have to reel that back in. So the current date today is March 19th, and let's say that I like to sell a spread that has at least a week's worth of life. So what I would probably be looking for is a stock that announces earnings after maybe April 1st. That way I don't have to mess with earnings announcements at all. I know that this spread is going to expire, and so I mark that, and I'll go out and I'll mark the 1st of April like that, and then it doesn't really matter what I mark after that as far as April is concerned. Maybe I'll go out to the 28th, and then we will hit scan, and you'll see a number of stocks that might fit that criteria. And again, I can narrow my search up here. Some of you might like trading ahead of earnings, and there's something that is a really effective tool. So I'm going to keep earnings date projected, and here I'm going to go and look for a stock that also releases in this time frame, but I'm going to use another search criteria: pre-earnings bull. So this search right here has looked at stocks over the last 8 quarters, and 75% of the time the stock has to rally 2 weeks into earnings. If I did pre-earnings bear, 75% of the time it would have to decline 2 weeks ahead of earnings. These tendencies are very, very powerful because then you can sell a credit spread. So if I see this earnings announcement coming up April 2nd, I might want to sell a weekly put spread right now on a stock that I know traditionally moves higher into its earnings announcement. So this spread will expire before earnings, and I'm trying to keep out about 2 weeks from that earnings announcement. Really, really, really good search. There are companies that provide this type of information, but they charge a whole lot of money for it. So this earnings projected date is very, very powerful. Pre-earnings. So this would be any stock that announces today after the close or tomorrow before the open. So if you want to take a look at stocks that are going to be announcing earnings, you mark that. And I don't know that there are any right now because we're really out of earnings season, but there are a couple. So these two companies announce after the close or before the open. If I were to do post earnings, these companies have announced earnings after the close the prior day or before the open today. I'm recording this on a Monday, so these two have announced earnings before the open today. This is also an incredibly powerful tool because now I love to trade post earnings. So I look for stocks that have announced earnings, and then I go nuts on all these criteria in here because I know this stock's going to have a lot of movement throughout the course of the day. So I can start looking for 5-minute engulfing patterns, capitulations, compressions, pressure, all these other things I can be looking for, liquid options. Boy, I'll tell you, great stuff. Can't wait to have you trying it. So I'm going to unmark post earnings, so you can look pre-earnings or you can look post earnings. And I think I mentioned that post earnings would have been any company that announced after the close yesterday or before the open today. Pre-earnings bull I described, pre-earnings bear I described, weekly options I described. They either have weekly options on that stock or they do not. If you only like trading ETFs, you can mark this box, and the only results that will come back will be ETFs. Now, this same Climax that you can use on a shorter term basis for day trading, I've also configured this for a longer term 60-day period. So for those of you who are investors or longer term swing traders or maybe longer term credit spreaders, you can also use this. So a bullish Climax long term, this would actually be a contrarian indicator for me. I'm looking for a stock that might be ready to roll over and reverse. And same thing here, a bearish Climax long term. I'm looking for a stock that has had a tremendous amount of selling pressure, but maybe it's starting to creep a little bit higher and move against all of this selling pressure. a divergence, if you will. Really, really good stuff. And I'll show you some of those in future videos. The other criteria that we have to select from are really pretty self-explanatory. Is the stock greater than the prior day high, lower than the prior day low, above the 20-day high, above or below the 20-day low, 52-week high, 52-week low, and then your moving averages. So some of these I do like, especially a post earnings that's higher than its prior day high. Okay, that's of interest to me, along with some other criteria that tells me that the stock has a positive earnings reaction. So these are all the criteria that you can select from. I'll also mention that if you click Save, a dialog box will pop up and it'll ask you, okay, well, what criteria, what would you like to name this search? Is it a bullish search or a bearish search? So you do have to categorize it as well. And finally, you'll describe the search, and you will be able to go back and see the description that you created for it, so that when you're looking at these saved searches in my platform, you'll be able to go back and understand exactly what went into the criteria. Now, oftentimes during the day, I've got a lot of these boxes marked, and I can't remember what I marked and what I didn't mark, and it's a little bit difficult to see what I've marked, so I can hit clear and everything will clear and I can start over. So those are also some of the features, and then obviously once you've got all your criteria selected, you click scan and the search will run. Again, normally it'll only take a second for these search results to come back to you. That is the introduction to the scanner. In the next video, I'm going to actually go out and I'm going to mark some of these. We're going to look at the results and I'm going to show you how the search did find exactly what we were looking for. Thank you.